is one of the hardest palette rankings video I've ever had to do. I am looking at this lineup. I don't even know if I believe this lineup. It was really, really hard. Like, I beg of you, don't question where I place these, because I also am questioning where I place these. But for today's video, I'm going to be ranking 11 of the newest eyeshadow palettes that have entered my collection that are holiday launches at Sephora. So I didn't review a lot of eyeshadow palettes this year, but it seems like they really packed them in here this last few months. And we have some stiff competition. Now, if you're new to my rankings, I take into consideration a lot of different aspects. 1, quality. 2, color story and versatility. 3, simply if I like it or not. This is a personal ranking, so that is very important. And then 4, how often I have ended up reaching for it. I'm hyperventilating a little bit, and you'll see why towards the bottom of these rankings, but like, I would say 10 of these palettes are really, really good, and there's only 11, so that's why I'm like, some of these big hitters are at the bottom, and they don't feel like they should be in the bottom. Anyways, let's start off with the only one I was very confident in ranking in its place, the worst holiday palette that I've tried that launched. That would be Charlotte Tilbury's holiday palette, the Pillow Talk Beautyverse Love palette. And I was very excited about this. I just have to ask, what happened to her quads? I used to love her quads, and she just doesn't make them anymore. Instead, she launches these mediocre 9-pan palettes, apparently. Now, last year's did not go over well, so I'm even surprised that she came out with a 9-panner this year. I liked last year's, though. I was in the minority. This year, it is bland, it is repetitive. I don't notice anything special about the quality here. It's not bad quality, but you're paying a premium price point, and with a premium price point, I expect premium quality. So I can get pretty looks, that's not the issue. It's just really monotone. There's not a lot of versatility in the looks that you can create with it. Overall, just an uninspiring palette that I was not tempted to reach for at all this holiday season. So yeah, she can do so much better. I mean, this is just same song, same dance when it comes to this palette. But she's also launched palettes, in my opinion, with much better quality. She used to launch these amazing holiday palettes every single year that I bought every single year, and this time it's just different. It feels different. This is the only palette in this video that I straight up do not really like or recommend, so that wasn't easy at 11. Number 10 feels wrong. I want to switch it out right now, but then if I switch it out, it would even feel more wrong. So don't think about it too hard. Listen to the review. Don't pay attention to the number that it lands in, even though it is 10. Listen to the review. So I have the Pat McGrath Labs Luminous Legends Mega Eyeshadow Palette, and I do think I have a little bit of resentment, and that is why it is here at number 10. So the bias is there for sure. Overall, very good palette. I like this palette. This palette swatches like a dream. It looks so buttery on the arm. But a lot of the shimmery shades here don't stick to the eyelid. They kind of fall off. The mattes in here are really great. It is a somewhat repetitive color story, but a color story that I do like. It doesn't belong in number 10. It really doesn't. But my biggest complaint is the inconsistency of quality in this palette. Some of the shimmers I really have to press and warm up and work into the eyelid. It's just a different formula than what I'm used to, and a different standard than what I'm used to when it comes to Pat McGrath. And I'm talking about the old school days, really. It's a good palette. If you're into it, I definitely recommend it. Just know maybe a glitter glue using your fingers will help with the lid shades. The mattes are phenomenal. Some of the shimmers are better than others. It's a good palette. Oh, do you see why I'm an emotional wreck this video? It feels wrong to put this palette at number 10. No, I like it. It's not anything special color story wise, but it is a color story that I gravitate towards and what I'm comfortable with wearing on the daily. So who I think that this palette is great for is the person who tends to wear more neutral colors but wants to try out a little bit of pop. I think that this is perfect. It's an unintimidating way to add color to your collection and your routine. I definitely recommend getting this if you're able to get a discount, though. I would not pay full price. Just hold off, wait for Black Friday, wait for when Pat McGrath has a sale. Do not pay full price for this. It is not worth full price, but at a discount, I would say so. Number 9, really good, honestly. So this is the Dior Backstage Eye Palette in Celestial Purple. This is not going to be a formula for everybody. It's of a higher price point. Now, it's not quite luxury since this is Dior's Backstage line, but it has that formula where it's a little bit more sheer. It has more of an effortless blend, but you're not going to get jam-packed pigment with this. You're not going to get a lot of textures or glitters with this. This is almost like a very blendable, easy to use satin formulation. It's going to be softer on the eyelids. I think it's a formula that caters really well to mature skin types because of the ease of use of this. I think it's a beautiful formulation, but if you've tried Dior, Tom Ford, and you don't find those formulas to be worth it, and I'm talking like the regular Dior line, not even this line, you're not going to like this palette. It's for a specific taste here. Now, in terms of the colors, this palette is surprisingly versatile. You can get neutral looks with this, purple looks with this, really cool tone looks with this as well. I've been pleasantly surprised by this palette. This is ranked too low. As I'm speaking, I don't want it to be in this place, but I'm gonna stand by my original thought process. Maybe I ranked this so low because the whole collection itself from Dior, like there was also a highlight palette. I did not like that highlight palette at all, but I did really like this. No, I like this. We'll leave it at 9. I'm gonna leave it at 9, but it's really, really good. It is, I swear. I swear to you, and it's super versatile. It's just a specific style of formulation that I don't think everybody's going to love. Okay, this one will shock you because I would say it's one of like the palettes of the holiday season. It's definitely top 3. So at number 8, I have personal reasons for putting it at number 8. This is the Danessa Myricks Lightwork Freedom palette that launched. Now, if I was ranking this solely based on packaging, this would be number 1, not just in this video, but in my entire collection. This is the most innovative packaging in a palette to ever exist. You know, you can fully customize it. You can take these to go. You can pop the individual shades out. Jose, roll the clips. Show them what this can do. Look at all the things this palette packaging can do. Big 18-pan palette. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary. Removable mirror. Fully removable magnetic top. Cool. Removable color families. Cool. Each shade is also easily removable. Makes it really great to mix and match. Remember the mirror? You have a little mini palette to go. Or you can bring all 18 shades with you. It went from this to this. The palette also comes with this pouch that fits the mini palette, and it's metal, so the palette and magnets will never come apart. The entire back of this palette, magnetic. If you want to bring more colors with you, take pans from any palette, they stick right on there. So you can put any colors you want in this palette with these shades, or not. Danessa! This palette is nothing short of genius. Now, when we're talking the colors here, it is all really glimmery, galactic, very high value shades and very good quality, but not for me. I tend to wear more wearable looks with the exception of today for today's look. This for me is like a 1, 2 at most shade palette. Like I have to use other shades from other palettes to build the base, and then I would top with these, which I just don't do very often. I don't think of doing that. For me, I'm the type of person where I grab a palette and that is all I'm going to use. That's going to create the whole look for me. So I haven't utilized this in the way that it deserves to be utilized. As a makeup reviewer as well, these shades, there's a lot of different formulas here, which I find to be a little bit overwhelming. So for me, that's why this is ranking where it's ranking. Essentially, I'm just not reaching for these colors or these formulas or a palette like this very often. Now, Danessa, and she's heard us. I've commented this and she's responded back. If we can create like a neutral palette with like cool tones, warm tones, neutral tones, mattes, shimmers, a little bit more wearable, a little bit more professional in that regard. I'm thinking in terms of what I would have put in my professional kit. Bridal. I did bridal. That's why I say that. I would eat it up. Eat it up. But if you are somebody who likes these galactic shades, lid toppers, don't need mattes, likes to grab into duochrome multi-chrome shades, I do definitely recommend this, but it's just not for me. Like, honestly, this probably should have ranked at number 10 because it's not something I'm going to utilize a lot, but the packaging pushed it up. The concept's so genius. It would have been wrong. Number 7 is the palette that I'm wearing today, and if you know and you've seen the palettes that I've been reviewing lately, you probably already know what this is. This is the Natasha Denona Roxa palette. I was jumping for joy when she launched this palette, mostly because I proved a lot of people wrong, and I was right, because you guys were talking about how all she launched was neutral colors, and I was like, she's going to come out with something for the color lovers. She will. She always does, especially during the holidays. And guess what? She did. She came out with a very, very grape purple palette. The big debate on this was the palette was too pink. I personally don't find it to be. I think these shades pull more purple on the eyelids than pink. And I think the pinky tones do flatter the purples. I mean, look at what I'm wearing right now. There is no argument here. This is a purple palette with some complementary pinks. First of all, it's a very good formula. It's Natasha Denona, but I have noticed over the years that her formula doesn't quite hit like it used to in the past. It's not as thick and creamy. It is still very good though. The shimmers in here though, you have to use a finger and not a brush, which has not always been the case with Natasha Denona. Also, I'm a neutral wearer. This is a bit bold for me on the daily. Now, obviously, occasionally, I definitely will grab for a more bold color, especially considering my career choice. But this isn't an everyday palette for me. I think if I didn't do this as a job, I probably would have been tempted by this palette, but ultimately would have passed on it because it's just not a practical purchase for me. But I know it's a practical purchase for many. I have many color lovers on my channel who follow me, and in that case, I do like this palette. She reformulated her mattes all for this palette because purples tend to be patchy, and the mattes in here are probably the best part of this palette. They are buttery, they do not get skippy on me, and purples are really difficult to formulate, so kudos to her for that. For me, the shimmers fell a little bit flat, you see me trying to backtrack and all of this. So for Natasha Denona's standard, the shimmers here fell a little bit short, in my opinion. She's still focused on getting those glimmery, shimmery finishes that are really popular right now, that I feel like she's lost that amazing, creamy, shimmery formula that she used to have in the past. But in the grand scheme of formulations, just with what the market has right now, it's still amazing quality. But as an OG Natasha Denona lover and wearer, I do notice a little bit of a difference. Nonetheless, I got this gorgeous look today. So this one does fall in the lower half. I would say the Danessa's probably better than it. Like, switch these. Danessa above. Anyways. So this next one, like, ideally, it would have gone towards the bottom because I've talked a lot of trash, garbage about these launches, but I cannot deny I reached for it a lot, and I think that that speaks volumes to a palette, and I think that's really important. At the end of the day, am I wearing it when I have such a large makeup collection? And truth is, I was rocking this all throughout the fall season. Coming in at number 6, we have the Too Faced Happily in Love palette. These are palettes every year where I kind of get down on myself about purchasing. I'm like, why would you purchase that? You know it's not the best quality. But there's something about the fact that they launch it very early on in the season, so it's just something to get me in that fall mood, so I always end up with it in my hands. And to be honest, you guys, this has been the perfect fall everyday color story for me. They have my very important brown tones that I always use. They have gorgeous lid shades, and they also have different matte shades to really create a lot of different looks. The variety of looks that you can get in here, it's even more than it looks. Like, the color choices here are phenomenal. Now, quality-wise, I've enjoyed the mattes greatly. Some of the shimmers a little bit on the dry side. So once again, the quality isn't a plus. But just with the looks I've been able to get with this, how comfortable I've been able to be with using the colors here, and overall the experience of the palette, I've really enjoyed it. It's probably my most used sitting in front of me right now. A lot of that is because this is the one I've had the longest of all the ones sitting in front of me right now. But before all of these came, this was my go-to. And you know how the palettes are normally like smacking you in the face with fragrance? At least they did in the past. This one's more subtle, which is a down point for me, honestly. Thumbs down. Because I do really love the element of a really strong scent. But I know you guys don't like fragrance, some of you. So that might be a thumbs up for you. Moving in at number 5, I was unsure about this one because I know I really like it, but I haven't reached for it as much as I thought I would. And then I've started picking it up again recently because in my head, let me show you. This is the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette. Now, this is not a holiday launch, and this video is all about the holiday launches. This was more so a fall launch, but we're just gonna count it, okay? Close enough. Now, the reason in the beginning that I had discovered that I wasn't reaching for this was because it pulled warmer than I thought. I felt like it pulled really orange on my skin, and it just was never the vibe of what I was going for. I was going more neutral, I would say, this fall. And then I like snapped myself out of it, and I forced myself to use this, especially this side right here, and I was like, okay. It's not all warm looks. So when it comes to this palette, versatility, it's really not there. You can't get that many looks with it. You can get a little bit of a warmer look and then a little bit more of a neutral look. It is called the I Need a Warm palette, so I don't know why I was expecting it to be anything besides warm. But anyways, quality-wise, I think it's a little bit better than the Roxa palette. Just a little bit more of the reliable Natasha Denona formula. Still not as good as the OG days. And a shimmery neutral. I always just want a shimmery neutral all over my lid. So I think also another reason that I wasn't using this as much was because not too long before this launch, the golden palette from Natasha Denona launched, and I loved the golden palette, and I was just reaching for the golden palette over this one. But it's a good palette. If you like the color story, if you like neutrals that lean warm, then I think you will like this. Number 4 and 3, these are newer to me, okay? I wish I had more time to let the dust settle to see how I ended up really liking these or not. But I have a lot of experience with this formula. I don't know which one I prefer over the other because I do have 2 different color stories of the ABH holiday palettes. So we have the sugar and the spice. Again, not specifying which one comes in at 3 or 4. I don't know yet. It's early days, but I'm very familiar with the formula. Now, I would guess, if I had to, sugar's gonna end up being my favorite, particularly in the winter time, because I'll look at these cool tones. And then I also think this one just has a more unique color story while still being something that is really comfortable for me to use. But the spice palette, the looks that I've gotten with this, I have loved. It's surprised me because I almost didn't even want to get this, but I really loved the neutral looks that I was getting with this. It's perfect for like a monochromatic, simple color in the crease, shimmer on the lid, and then maybe a little bit of extra definition, and it's the classic ABH formula. So the mattes you get a little bit of fallout with, they're kind of soft, but they're very pigmented, very easy to blend, and then you get what you see when it comes to the shimmers. Like this one is more metallic, but it's really creamy, easy to apply, and then the shades that are a little bit more reflective, they're a little bit more flaky, but not in a bad way, just in a really soft way that I like to work out onto my eyelid. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get a big ABH palette, but I think this is just the direction that the industry is going in terms of the eyeshadow world, so I understand. But ABH, we could have done something better with the packaging, at least. Like, this is kind of boring packaging and cheap, if you ask me. but the quality inside is not. But because ABH's quality is so reliable, and with the few looks that I've done with these, I've loved them, and I thought the formulas were really easy to work with. I know that these are palettes I'm going to continue using, so that's why they ranked where they did. Number 1 and 2 are probably the most exciting launches for everybody, and I think there's a reason that they got to that point. These brands, the creator behind the brands, are innovative, they are artists at heart, they are smart and extremely talented. At number 2, and I haven't had this long enough to solidify number 2, but we had to get this video out. I think it's still a new shiny toy to me, so do keep that in mind when it comes to this rankings. It's a new shiny toy to me. It's the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette. As you've heard, unfortunately, the last big palette that we are getting. But I think she went out with a bang here. The quality ended up being much better than even I expected it to be. I think the versatility here is decent. I think some of the shades are a little bit close to one another, but the quality is beautiful. I've loved the looks, and I see myself using this a lot more this coming winter. It's named Icy, okay? It's giving icy and winter. I think as the dust settles with this palette, it'll probably drop a little bit in the rankings, but I'm still very excited about this. I think the mattes blend out really great, and the shimmers are gorgeous. We have some unique finishes as well. I would say these are a little bit messy, but everything that's swatched bad applied just fine on the eyelid. At least I'm telling you it's early days with this, but I'm still excited about this. Now, it is not my favorite color story from Huda Beauty ever, but I think it's very on theme for the winter, and so I still like it. Now, number 1. This one is also quite new, but I know it's my favorite because I have used it a lot in the short amount of time that I've had this. This is taking time away from these other palettes because I keep using it. And it is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Moonlight Palette. Cool toned heaven, but there's still a lot of variety in depths. My only critique here is I do feel like his shimmers, they don't look very different on the eyelid. I mean, I don't know how we can change that. It's my only critique, and I'm not even mad because they're so pretty on the eyelid. It doesn't really matter to me, but these mattes are super buttery, really easy to use. Like, you can tell a true artist put these colors in, because even though these colors, navy, brown, and black, and gray, are super boring, they completely change the direction of a look. It's really easy to create different gradients. Again, I can tell an artist created this, and every time I wear this, I love my makeup. I love the way that it looks, and I'm going to be continuing to use this well into winter. It is definitely my favorite palette that has launched this holiday season. For me, it is worth every penny, and I know the Sephora savings event is still going on. This is the one, you guys. That is the one. If you like cool tones, of course. If you don't, spice, I need a warm. Maybe even the Too Faced that I cheekily like a lot more than I should. Anyways, those were my very, very probably unreliable rankings for all of the holiday palettes that launched for this season that I tried, of course. Again, I cannot stress enough, do not look too far into the numbers and listen to the reviews and what I have to say, and then think how that could benefit you based on what you like and the type of eyeshadows, price point, all of that stuff that you're looking for. But all in all, it was a really good season of eyeshadow palettes. It was definitely a quality over quantity this season, which I am not mad at. If you've tried any of these palettes, down below, what do you think? Do you disagree with what I said, or do you agree with what I said? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like it and subscribe to my channel for more. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys, have a good one.